In early 2026, the Middle East erupted into a conflict that paralyzed one of the most critical maritime arteries on Earth, the Strait of Hormuz. A waterway responsible for a massive share of global energy was suddenly and entirely locked down. This chart shows a 90% transit collapse overnight, erasing 20 million barrels of daily global oil supply. Since oil is a base ingredient for farming, this energy deficit became a food deficit. Notice the explosive rise in global fertilizer prices. Without it, crop yields collapse. Governments stared down a cataclysmic math problem. They had to distribute a shrinking pool of fuel and food to a panicked population, all while preventing mass civil unrest and economic breakdown. These shortages did not meet a vacuum. By early 2026, the legislative foundations for control, from the US Genius Act to the EU's digital identity wallets, were already operational. The resource shock simply provided the immediate pretext to activate these dormant frameworks into a national automated rationing system. During the Second World War, governments managed scarcity by printing millions of physical paper ration books. In a highly globalized, fast-moving crisis, paper is useless. It takes too long to print, it's difficult to distribute, and it's remarkably easy to forge. The modern state doesn't need to mail you a physical coupon. They can leverage the hardware you already carry everywhere you go. The smartphone becomes the centralized distribution node for state-approved survival resources. Managing modern scarcity requires a direct, real-time sync between your physical presence at a checkout and your state-verified digital account. To receive crisis rations, a citizen must cryptographically prove who they are to a centralized database. The system requires an identity layer, where a digital profile is biometrically locked to a specific human being. We saw this deployment accelerate globally. The United States rapidly pushed mobile driver's licenses to millions of smartphones, while the European Union mandated its eIDAS 2.0 digital wallet framework across all member states. In developing nations, philanthropic entities like the Gates Foundation poured funding into systems like MOSIP. This provided the open-source software required to collect standardized biometrics and onboard entire populations into centralized digital ecosystems. What is originally sold as a frictionless way to travel or access government forms quickly hardens into a wall. Without this digital identity, verifying employment, opening a bank account, or participating in basic civic life becomes impossible. But knowing who someone is only gives the state the power to track. To actually enforce behavior and limit what a person can consume, that identity must be plugged directly into the financial system. Enter programmable money. While a paper bill is static, a central bank digital currency is software, money wrapped in smart contracts. Because it is code, the issuer dictates exact conditions. It can be programmed to expire or geofenced, locking up if it crosses a city boundary. This capability is now written into U.S. law. Under the Genius Act of July 2025, stablecoin issuers are mandated to possess the technical ability to instantly seize, freeze, or burn citizen tokens when required by the state. When you combine the biometric ID with the programmable wallet during a crisis, you get automated rationing. We saw this in March 2026, when Myanmar's junta used shipping disruptions to justify fuel limits, and digital cash transfers were deployed to manage food relief in Sudan. The system relies on a protocol called atomic settlement. If an individual attempts to buy gasoline, but the algorithm determines they have exceeded their weekly carbon or fuel quota, the payment network cancels the transaction before it can process. Under this architecture, the government does not need to deploy armed guards at every gas pump or grocery store. The money itself enforces the limit. Wars eventually end and supply chains stabilize, but highly effective surveillance infrastructure is rarely dismantled. This is function creep, the historical reality that emergency security measures often become a permanent part of the state's toolkit. We are watching the end of information-insensitive money. Buying a loaf of bread no longer happens in a vacuum. Every transaction requires you to prove your identity and your behavioral compliance to a central network. This transparency is one-sided. While the average citizen is subjected to granular algorithmic tracking, Senate investigations into the Epstein network revealed how the apex of the financial system facilitated massive illicit flows for decades with near-total opacity, while federal agencies used FASB 56 to legally modify their own financial statements. The system mutates. A digital tool initially pitched as a vital mechanism for distributing emergency rations transforms into an inescapable, AI-screened checkpoint required for basic, everyday civic participation. This is why economists and privacy advocates emphasize building a Plan B. Maintaining the use of physical cash and investing in decentralized local agricultural networks provide a critical escape hatch from this centralized point of failure. In the modern architecture, an individual's ability to buy food or cross a city boundary rests entirely on a status code within a centralized ledger, a permission that an algorithm can revoke in a fraction of a second.